rebuilding. The catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40. We focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, before we get started on today's podcast, I just want to take a minute to let you guys know that our new Work Hard Motherfucker t-shirts are now available at hostilegear.com. Head on over there, use the code Silverback and save 20% and get this badass t-shirt. I know a lot of people have been saying, hey, what a great idea, can't wait to get it. So now it's up there, it's in color, it looks awesome, and make sure to get yours AS to the AP. And now, on to the episode. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Turning 50. Back in the month of March, I turned 50. And it's a pretty important milestone. Sometimes for people, it's more important than it is for others. Some people are afraid of their age, don't want to admit their age. The zeros are always celebrated, right? You celebrate your 30, your 40, your 50. The big important celebrations usually start happening at 40 and 50. I don't hear too much about the 60s and stuff. And then 70s, the people in the old age home are throwing it for you. I don't know what's going on with that. We'll see. I don't want that to be me. For me, because I'm always trying to work on becoming the best version of myself, for myself, through the business, through the brand, I kind of look at my birthdays as a checkpoint to see where things are at and stuff. And, at the end of the day, I think I'm moving along okay. And then there's some days where I'm like, Jesus, I'm way behind. And I think that happens to all of us. But the fact that I'm what I call doing something about it and actively pursuing self-improvement and doing what I'm doing, it gives me a little more sense of, relief or calm. I'm working on controlling my destiny, right? Trying to steer it in a certain way, not letting it just happen to me and being all upset I'm not where I'm supposed to be, where I think I'm supposed to be overall. Overall, for 50, I feel pretty damn good. I feel better now at 50 than I did at 40, that's for sure. I've accomplished some really cool things in the last couple of years, again, with the brand, with Hostile. This podcast is a big thing. My own training, I've set some, I'm benching heavier now at 49 and 50 than I ever did in my life, which is pretty cool. But on the inside, I don't feel 50. I feel pretty good. I feel 30-ish, I guess. I think that's pretty important. At the end of the day, I think you hear that you're only as old as you feel, and I think that's very, very true. I think physically, how you feel is very important. I think mentally, emotionally is the most important part overall. As we're moving along and we're getting things are happening and we're getting some fulfillment, I think that makes your 50 look a lot different than someone who's turning 50 who doesn't have that going on, right? So I think that's really, really important. One thing I will say is I find from one birthday to the next, it seems like it's happening faster. A lot of people have been asking because 50 is a milestone how do I want to celebrate it? Now I'm recording this in January, my birthday's in March, and you're hearing it in May. So it's kind of weird. So I might go past tense, future, and present tense in what I'm saying today. So take that with that context, knowing that I'm talking about my birthday, 50th. That hasn't happened yet, but by the time you hear this, it has happened. So you'll hear now, then, and what I did and what I want to do in the same thing. So don't let that be confusing. And if it is, this is why it's like that. So a lot of things in the last little bit have changed how I feel about celebrating a birthday or a milestone. I said it a few episodes before, going to Europe last year, 2017 May, was incredible for me. And I really just fell in love with what I did, taking the time off, going to a part of the world I'd never been before, seeing things and just being present in the moment was super, super exciting and valuable and rewarding. So I think that's changed me in a few ways that compared to when I turned 40, compared to when I turned 45. So what I'm looking to do, now we're talking in the past tense or future tense. I haven't hit my birthday yet. My wife's been asking, what do I want to do for my birthday in 50? And what I keep thinking about is I just want to wait maybe till the summer. March is spring here in Canada, if you're listening to me from somewhere not in Canada. So it can be warm in March, and it can be dirty cold, or it can just be muddy. So it's not quite the same thing. I'm not into the big, the party. I don't drink anymore. So having a get together is okay, but it's not like it was when I was 40. It was like get shit faced liquored and that kind of thing, right? It's not that at all for me anymore. I want to do something, but I'm thinking more along the lines of, like renting a cottage for a week on the lake. And then maybe have some people over, a couple, in the first weekend, and maybe a couple of people over during the week, but also have some days where it's just me and the family. Because part of what I liked when we were in Europe is that there was times where it was just the four of us, and we went out and did stuff. We went out and, jumped on a boat and took a tour or did something different. I really liked that part. And I think more and more, it's that time I'm valuing as well too, because I'm so busy working and I'm so busy in the brand and so busy in the gym with people, and I love it. But I think the unplugging is more important at times for me as well, or just as important, or needs to be a focus. So I'm thinking that, and by the water and some fresh air, and I'm loving the walking that I do in the spring, summer, fall that I do. Come, like I said, we're into January into February. It's messy outside. It's cold and it's ice everywhere. I don't enjoy any of that. So I don't do a lot of outdoor walking in this type of weather. So I always look forward to the spring to get outside in the sunshine, to walk, put the headset on and listen to a podcast or listen to some music or a motivational speech in the fresh air, walking and breathing. I really, really love that. And that's why I'm thinking this year for my 50th is that's what I want to do. Get outside and spend some time and swim and, canoe a little bit and, start a fire and, in the fire pit, and just cook some food and listen to some music, play some games, laugh, and just relax, just unwind and recharge a little bit. And that's what I'm leaning towards, so it's interesting to see that. Whereas a few years ago, it wouldn't have been that. It would have been like, let's go to Vegas. And I'm like, no, let's have some, unplug to me is a big thing. Quiet things down. Spend the time with the most important people in my life. My family, my kids are getting older. Another year or two, they're going to be off to college, university, or jail. I'm just not going to see them as much, right? So let's spend a little more time while we can. And enjoy that. And I'm looking forward to that. So I think that's where we're going to go with that. And this is episode 92. So maybe, episode 110, I'll talk about having done that, and what that was like overall. But like I said earlier, I use my birthdays as a checkpoint to sort of plot where I am in my goals and working towards my vision and stuff. And there's some years where I'm pretty pleased about what's happening. A lot of years where I'm not. A lot of the years earlier where I wasn't, it's because I wasn't in a good place, right? I was drinking. I was stuck inside my head. The businesses were failing at a certain point. Some of those birthdays were pretty dark. Now I'm at a point where I have a different sense of I'm not there yet, and I'm not satisfied with some things, which is a difference than not happy. I think now because we're moving forward and we're doing some really cool things, and the momentum is starting to happen for me, for the brand, for the business, I want more of it, and I want to get there faster. And that's where some of that, hey, let's get there quicker, let's work harder. Luke and I were just talking about, just between episodes, about, our downloads, how many people are downloading our show, right? And when we look at our stats, we see how many downloads per month that we have, and they're unique downloads. So if you listen to the same episode twice, it only counts as once, and so on, as far as I understand. And the numbers are growing, but then there's a part of me like, oh, I wish they were growing faster, right? And then that's the kind of that balancing act is like, how do we do that? We want to be, what's the word I'm looking, organic about it. I want to be real about it. So I want to build it over time so it's done properly, but at the same time, it's not rushed so that it doesn't feel like it's forced, right? To me, that's super, super important overall. So that's where it's going to take more patience. It's going to take more time in, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be better. So the logical part of me, the maturity part of me understands that. And that's how I want to build the podcast, right? I want to have a good, strong base of listeners that appreciate what we're doing, that are learning from what we're doing, that are benefiting from what we're doing here in the podcast. But then there's the business guy in me, and there's a competitive guy in me that wants to be at 5,000 downloads a month and growing and stuff. Because I know when we get to that point, it'll open up other doors that'll move us further and farther down the line. And that's that balancing act, right? And that's the kind of thing as I turn 50, I'm looking at. And now it's more of, am I doing the right things? Am I on the right track? Do we, let's evaluate. How do we make tweaks? How do we improve upon it so that it's better and it keeps moving, but also maintain the integrity of what I'm trying to do overall? Whereas 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it would have been like, yeah, let's hire people just to get us downloads and figure that kind of shit out. And, and then all I would have is numbers, but they wouldn't be real numbers. It's like people that buy Instagram followers and Facebook likes and stuff. We've all looked at it. We've all messed with it a little bit and stuff like that. But you realize that those numbers might be there, but you don't get that core, just that core momentum from it, right? Because they're not real. So it's understanding that, and understanding it's going to take a big difference. I can't remember who wrote the book, but basically it's called 1,000 Raving Fans. We'll look that up. We'll figure out what it is. But basically they talk about when you're building a brand or a business, your goal should be to get to 1,000 raving fans, 1,000 people that will open every email you send, that will listen to every podcast that you produce, right? That will want to buy your shirt or your protein or your widget, right? Whatever it is. And once you get to that level, bigger things happen. It's a critical mass. That's the word I was looking for before. A critical mass. You want a solid, strong, critical mass. Because at that point, right, to get to that point, you have to really work on your product and your service. Because you don't get that if you're fly by night. You don't get that if you don't have some substance. You don't get that if you're not putting out information that truly helps and benefits, right? Solve enough people's problems, you'll have everything you ever want in your life. I think Ford said that, right? And I think that's what I have to remember and focus on, is that how can I continue to be of more service to others that are looking for a solution that I can provide to the problem they have, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I have 500 22-year-olds listening to me, because they're not going to buy a shirt that I sell. They're not going to join my gym. They're not, because I'm not geared towards those guys. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter if I have them as followers, but if I have 10 more followers that are at a 40 to 60-year-old range, obviously listening to the podcast, we're talking about men over 40, but I have a lot of women listeners as well. I know that because I hear from them, right? That honestly appreciate what we're doing, are getting knowledge and expertise and getting just help and motivation to deal with what they're dealing with, because we're in that 40 plus range. So how I talk about things makes a big difference, because it's coming from a guy over 40, which the same facts could be coming from a guy who's 20 or a girl who's 20, but it doesn't have the same feel. It doesn't carry the same weight. It doesn't have the same rapport, because it comes through no matter what, that they're only 20. They're only 25. They're only 30. Who they should be talking to is the other 20-year-olds and the other 25-year-olds and the other 30-year-olds. Even though the information is going to be the same for both, it's going to come across differently overall. I get some 20-year-old guy that comes in, wants help with supplements. I'll help him. But what I'm saying to him is going to be a little bit different, because I'm talking to a 20-year-old. By the way, every 20-year-old's fucking dumb. It's just that when we were 20, we thought we were smart. Right? So at the end of the day, we're not relating, right? We're in two different worlds, two different camps, and that's okay, right? Talking about birthdays, when I was 25 years old, the birthday party would have started the beginning of March and would have ended at the end of March, or when I ran out of money, right? That's a big difference from how it celebrates at, when we're 50, right? I'm just as motivated to sit down and have a dinner with 10 people or 8 people and talk and laugh and listen. I get a lot more from that now than I would have when I was 20 or 30 years old, which was like 20 or 30 years ago. It's funny how that works, right? So at the end of the day, right, at 50, I've got a pretty good life. At 50, I have a lot that I've done. At 50, I have a lot left that I want to do. Right? Same 50, just depending on how I look at it, it has a different thing overall. I like where I'm at. I like where I'm headed at 50. I'm probably more happy about that than anything else. It's in a better, smoother direction than at 49 was, and then at 48 was, and then 47 was. And those years were getting better. My sober years are by far some of my best years, for sure. Right? But also some of my more challenging ones overall. Right? So at the end of the day, it's all about how you feel. But I think what we have to work on is routines and principles so that we feel like we're younger as we're getting older. Right? And that's the whole principle of the Silverback Blueprint. That's the whole principle of Hostile, our gym, is rebuilding men and women over 40 years old, because we're halfway through. And it's about the quality of life we want to have now. The quality of life we want to have now, that we have the time and the means and the money to do the things we've always wanted to do, but yet we are not ready to do anymore physically or mentally or emotionally. Right? We can afford to go skydiving. However, we don't have the self-esteem or the confidence, to squeeze into a jumpsuit, throw a parachute on our back and jump off because we're 50 pounds overweight. We can afford to go down south and have a beautiful trip, but we know we can't do this excursion because physically we can't walk that far. Or we're not looking forward to, seeing pictures of ourselves, beached on laying on the beach like a beached whale because we're 60 pounds overweight and no shape and form to us. That severely limits what we're going to do when we're down there. That severely limits how we're going to enjoy those trips. It's crazy when you think about it. You can afford to go, you want to go, but you're afraid to go. And at the very least, you're not going to get the best experience from that overall. So if you're going to go down south, if you're going to go to Europe, if you're going to go to China, my sister-in-law's in China right now. It's her bucket list trip. She's gone there with work. She's always wanted to go. Every week she sends pictures. And what she's up to, she's having a fucking blast. But she's turned around and gotten probably in the best shape of her life in the last 5 years. Health is a major concern for her. Her fitness, she's working out. She's watching what she eats. She was always, ever since I've known her over 25 years, she's always been a positive person and a hardworking person, but she's at a higher level now, which is really cool to see. So when I see the pictures of what she's doing in China and the stuff she's saying, and what she's talking about, I know for a fact she's fucking loving it. And she's in a position where she can, because she feels good and she's energetic and she's strong and she's confident. She's winning. Right? She's going to spend, I think, 4 months down there. And it's part of her work, so it's all paid for. Do you know what I mean? But she put it out there that she wanted to have that trip someday through work, and work rewarded her with it because she's a key person where she works. She's worked hard for 25, 30 years where she's been, stuff like that. So she's earned that shit. Right? She put that work in. But she also put herself in the position to be ready for it when it happens, and she's in a position where she can enjoy the living shit out of it. To me, that's a huge success. And if you want to model somebody and model how someone did something, there's a perfect example of how to model some stuff. Right? She has a family like everybody else. She has a mortgage like everybody else. She has a husband and kids like everybody else. Do you know what I mean? She's not blessed with, millions of dollars. She worked hard for everything they have. Right? She's put her kids through university. She did all the hockey stuff. Right? All the stuff that we're using as excuses. Right? She did. And she's on the other side of it doing the other stuff. That's what we need to do, guys. So to me, when I look at 50, depending on what you're taking from this podcast, as I'm approaching 50 in the next 6 weeks, or listening to this podcast in May, as I turned 50 a few weeks ago, that's how I sit back and I look at things and saying, hey, where am I in relation to that type of scenario? Right? Where am I in relation to how I feel, to what I'm accomplishing, to my balance in life, to my pursuit of my goals and my vision? That's how I'm looking at things, and that's how I'm celebrating things, and that's what I'm looking towards and setting a goal. So maybe 51, we do it somewhere else. Maybe 51, we do it back in Barcelona. I fucking love Barcelona. So it's up to me to put my head together down and figure out a way to get there. Maybe I can arrange a bunch of seminars in different gyms out there, because there's more and more gyms on bench seminars, and I can, book 5-6 bench seminars at different gyms through Spain, and that pays for my trip. Like, what the fuck is stopping me from doing that? Nothing. Because it's a skill set I have. It's something I already do. I just need to sit there, and if I truly want to do that, put an action plan together, and every morning when I get up, right, I spend some time every day on that part of that goal, getting that shit done. So for me, turning 50 is gonna be, has been, and will be cool. But so will 51, so will 52. If I can keep feeling younger and happier on the inside, my age doesn't matter. It just thins out the competition, right? At 50 years old, I have a lot of buddies that are 50 that aren't doing well. I have a few that are doing extremely well. So I want to be in that camp. I want to be doing extremely well, right? I want to shovel the driveway if I have to shovel the driveway. I want to be able to mow the lawn if I have to mow the lawn, right? For a lot of guys listening, the thought of shoveling the driveway is a huge endeavor, because you're out of shape, you're tired, you're beat up. We hear the stories in the winter. It's sad, a guy dies of having a heart attack shoveling snow. Well, you know what? It's the shoveling snow that didn't cause that heart attack. That was the final piece. It's the shitty lifestyle for the last 20 years. The unhealthy food. The lack of exercise. Right? All those things that were totally in that person's control. Now, it might sound harsh. And I'm not saying it's sad. It's not sad that they passed away and left the family behind. That's fucking sad. But they had total control over that situation. Right? It's up to us. Don't approach your next birthday. I don't want you to get to the next birthday where you're that guy that can't shovel the driveway. To me, that's how you celebrate a birthday. Being better than you were the year before. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Especially in the areas that you're weaker in now. Be better for your next birthday. That's what I want to do. Every year, I want to be better and better in the areas that I want to be better in, and be able to look back and see a difference and feel a difference and be in a different place moving forward than I was before. We're not giving up. I don't want to fucking give up. So many people back down and say, I'm too old now. Fuck that. Right? I want to make sure that every time I hit another milestone of a birthday, right, I'm doing it in style. I'm doing it my way. A little bit of a strut. Actually, I just walk funny. I tell people it's a strut. So guys, happy birthday to me, motherfuckers. That's all I got for today. As always, guys, work hard, motherfuckers. Get shit done. Do it on your terms. You got a birthday coming up? Make it the best one you've ever had in a long time. And then work on improving it from there. I'll talk to you guys later. Head on over to iTunes. Leave us a 5-star rating and a hell of a review. Head on over to hostilegear.com. Use the code Silverback and order something really cool for yourself. And I'll talk to you guys later.